Hi everybody, welcome out to the Dice Tower. My name's Chris Yi.
And I'm Wendy Yi.
And today we're taking a look at a family-weight, approachable boss battler cooperative game called One Hit Heroes. This is designed by Connor Reed and AC Atienza.
And by Wiggles 3D.
Published by Wiggles 3D. This is the name right there. Look, the box Wiggles. Now, I really like that company name. I don't know why.
Because I feel like I can do this.
Yeah.
During
it's the biggest single excuse you have to do that dance. So anyway, Wendy's going to continue to do that dance. I'm going to show you how to play this game. One Hit Heroes is a cooperative boss battling game. Each player is going to get a character board and the character with their starting deck of cards, and 2 items here which represent shields that will protect them from getting hit. As the name suggests, One Hit Heroes, if heroes get hit without a way to block it, they're eliminated and will lose the game. You will then choose a boss from 3 different episodes or 3 different small campaign arcs. There are 4 battles per episode that you choose to do. So you will face the first boss here from episode 1, The Factory. They have 10 regular health and 5 larger health, so you need to destroy all of this damage from them in order to win the game before you get hit yourselves. Now that we've set up here, Edric is going to take the first turn. From his starting hand, he will be able to play 3 cards. After he finishes his turn, he will draw back up to 5 cards in hand, and then the boss will flip over a card and deal its effects to all the players. So let's say that I wanted to, in this case, with Edric, play out this card here. This is a weapon which will do 2 basic damage. When you do damage to the bosses in this game, you will take that damage and put it onto your own track here. This is called the aggro track. And the reason that you want to manage this is that the higher up you are, the more likely you are to get hit by the boss's die roll. So if it rolls yellow, for example, anyone who is in yellow or higher will take a damage. Anyone who is in green or higher, in this case, would take a damage. So you don't want to have too much aggro. But Edric is a bit of an agromancer, if you will. So here he can do another basic damage, or this weapon allows him to spend one of his 3 energy that he has in order to deal a larger damage instead, a heavy damage. And then lastly, he's going to play out this event card, or this action card, which allows him to lose 1 aggro and draw a card instead. So there are effects that allow you to regain energy, to remove aggro, share it amongst players, however you will. At the end of playing these 3 action cards, he will discard all the ones that he played, and then he will also redraw back up to 5 cards in hand, ending his active turn. It'll go to the boss now, who will flip over a card and will also do anything shown on his mat. So in this case, if any player is at the red aggro or higher, the boss would attack by rolling the die. Since that doesn't happen here, he will flip over his first card, and these cards are set up in sequential order, cards 1, 2, 3, etc. And in this case, all players will have to add 3 aggro to their player board, and that will be a whole turn sequence of the game. There are also passive abilities that the items have over here, or when destroyed abilities. So if Edric over here were to get hit with a die roll, he would either have to have a way to block the damage from hand or get rid of one of his items. So this one says that when you destroy or burn this item as a way to avoid damage, he's able to remove all of his aggro from his track here. So you can see there's lots of ways to manage this. As long as players are able to play out cards in a way that they take out all of the health of the boss, they'll win the bout. So that's one battle there. After a battle is won, you'll open back up the episode box, because as I mentioned, there are 4 battles that you will go through here, each of the bosses having different sequence of event cards that they'll activate. After you beat the boss, you'll get to crack open a little booster pack, which will have additional cards. Starting with the player who dealt the final blow, they'll be able to add upgraded item cards and weapons cards and actions and reaction cards into their hand. And then you'll play the next boss, pulling out both the boss's board here, as well as the new cards that go along with that boss, which will be set up in sequential order. So that the setup is nice and quick. You can jump to the next boss, or you can pack it up and continue playing later. They're about 20 minutes per session, it says. So that's how you play One Hit Heroes.
Starting off with some things that I really enjoy about One Hit Hero is I like the streamlined, very targeted deck. So each one of the characters feels different. Oftentimes when you play a deck building-ish game, you feel like everyone starts out the same and then you kind of grow and change throughout it. But I really like that they're focused in. And so you could have a character that is just really battle strong and heavy and they're willing to take a lot of damage and they feel like that front warrior guy, in a D&D campaign. They're like, I'm going to hit everything and I'm going to get hit so hard. And then you have other ones that, you have to do a little bit trickier card play to get stuff to fire off. But when you do, because those decks are so thin, they do fire off, and then you have some cool moments.
You start with 11 cards. 2 of them are those items, the blue cards that go right on your character board. So you have a 9-card deck the first mission, right? And then from there, as you saw, there's the little booster pack thing. So you add new cards, 2 new cards each time that you go through the 4 chapters of an episode. So it's a good, simple structure, especially for a very, very family weight game like this, right? This is one you could play with. I don't know the exact age I would recommend necessarily. Well, I mean, the box
says 10.
Box says 10 plus. I think 10 is high, honestly, but it depends on your kid, right? If your kid is used to playing games and sitting down and following rules,
right? A gamer 8,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly, right. So an 8-year-old. Kids of gamers, someone who regularly watches the Dice Tower board game reviews and stuff, you've probably played games that are more complicated with your kids. This is very simple, but there's a decent amount of reading, and there is going to be some strategery that you need to kind of cooperate about, right? When do you just do a bunch of damage because you can? When do you hold off a little bit because that aggro level grows? And I think that aggro level is a very clean little system.
I think that is a very unique feeling way of adding that cooperative pressure, because in a cooperative game you have to have the game fight against you, and you do have the boss cards that come out, and those are hit or miss whether I enjoy them. But the aggro line is so fascinating because you are constantly battling that sense of, oh my goodness, it's getting harder. Ooh, I have this amazing combo. I can do 5 damage this turn. Oh wow, that took me from green to red. That's pretty intense.
Do I want to be in red? Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Because I'm more likely to get hit by the die roll. That's a good, clean system. And then also, I'm more likely to activate effects. So one of the things I didn't show you in the overview is that later bosses, as you flip over a card, it'll say the top line you always do that action. The bottom line will have a color around it, yellow or red or purple. And so if anyone has their aggro track up to that level, the boss gets a second activation. And I like that because thematically, as you're poking and chipping away at a boss, the more aggressive you seem, the more he's going to fight back. So
whereas he's focused on you too, if you're the one causing the most pain.
Yeah. But then also it'll attack everybody, right? Because that's kind of the nature of this game. The production on this also kind of plays into that very approachable, very simple, quick to get to the table thing. The tray's set up pretty easily, and then the little episode box can kind of, will hold the stuff fine. So it's quick to get to the table.
I do think the little yellow pieces, the smallest damage that you can do, are a bit too tiny.
They really are.
I wish they were all leveled up a little bit in size, but mostly those.
They are very physically fiddly to try to grab and then put them into your aggro tray and then take them out of your aggro tray. So I think that overall approachability is what this game strives for, and it does that very well. But for me, where it kind of falls apart is not falls apart sounds rough, right? But for me, as an adult gamer who's played a lot of cooperative games, played a lot of boss battlers, it is very simple, very, very, very simple. So,
it has to be because you have 1 hit point, and then you have those 2 item cards or whatever they're called, technology cards.
Items,
yeah. That are essentially your shields that can go away, and so there's not a lot that you can do when it comes to ramping up depth and even balancing out a hit versus not a hit, because 1 hit always hurts. There's no gentle tap.
Yeah, there's a few reaction cards in hand. You can, I can burn this permanently, get rid of it to avoid 1 damage for any player. Things like that add to that cooperative feel. But as you said, if it's a hit, it feels terrible. If it's a miss, woo.
So how does it fall apart for you, I guess, is the question.
Because of the nature of it being 20-minute boss battles, which is a strength if that's what you're looking for, it doesn't have enough time to feel dynamic. It kind of feels like, well, beat the boss as fast as possible and maybe occasionally make a choice to hold back a little bit so your aggro is not too high, and then you'll win or you'll lose spectacularly. So, and you can easily replay any mission, right? If you lose in the third episode into a chapter, just replay the third episode, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not punishing, but it also, some of the wins don't feel satisfying. A lot of the losses don't feel satisfying. It does a lot of things well, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay, so you want more depth in that arc process of fighting a boss.
Right.
You want those tension moments where like, ooh, it's getting tight. Can I squeak by? You know what I mean? Like those moments instead of...
what can I do with a little more creative card play? No, you have these 5 cards. You're going to play 3 of those.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like there's not a ton of wiggle room. Wiggle room. Which is, I also understand, just going to come with the nature of this being a very family-friendly, short and quick boss battler.
And I think that that's where I have a little bit more positivity than you, is I definitely agree that there is not room for that arc. And so going into this, if that's what you're looking for, like you're just going to miss out on that sort of depth. But I think that this really succeeds at giving you that 15, 20-minute boss battler. And you can play the whole story, the episode or whatever, where you fight the 4 different bosses. And I think my struggle with this is that you're fighting these 4 different bosses and you don't know what you're getting into. There's not enough story and lore or whatever for you to know, like, okay, I should collect weapon cards this round, or I should collect, the purple action cards this round. Like, I feel like there's not enough to let you know what's going to happen with the boss. And so I don't really want to look through the deck and have all those spoilers, because a big part of this is, flipping over the deck and seeing what's going to happen. But as soon as you lose, you know what's going to come up, and then you have to replay it.
And you just replay it.
And you just have that same element. So you're like, I could have just known ahead of time.
Right. I might have not chosen great upgrade cards for this particular campaign.
Right.
Now, they include specific upgrades per campaign, so there shouldn't be any bad ones, but there's definitely better ways to formulate your deck. And when you lose against the same boss 3 times in a row, you sit there and feel like, well, I just needed to have grabbed more upgraded weapons. Oh, I needed to have kind of gotten that reaction to get through this. And
so there's a little bit of that. I think the other thing is that those cards that you get to upgrade your deck with every round don't always feel like an upgrade. Sometimes I feel like they're just gumming down my very, very clean, streamlined deck. And instead you're like, this is a great card that has a terrible cost attached to it. So you're like, yes, I can do a lot more damage, but also now I have to discard cards. And so I feel like they're not always the upgrades you want.
Sure.
They don't always feel like good choices.
Right. And they're tailor-made for those scenarios, so
they are.
I would hope that, I would hope it felt more like, oh, I got to choose a card between these 8 great options instead of like, well, that one. But
yeah.
I don't want to sound like we're too negative on this one, because I think that overall the production and stuff on this, they did a good job. It's bigger than it need be, but that's for the ease of quick setup and quickly getting to the table and everything. That is a strength that this has. But for my final score, I don't want to be accused of reviewing this for something that I wish it was instead of what it is. As it is, quick, approachable. You can play it with your family, younger kids, and it has a lot of those strengths. But score-wise, I'm still coming in at a 6. That's positive of average, right? Mm-hmm. It's a game that I could see working for a lot of people. For me, it just doesn't work for those shortcomings that we've mentioned. I don't want to feel like we're nitpicking all of those, but I feel like for a little bit more investment, you could play a game like Adventure Tactics, and that's something that we've played with our daughter since she was like 7, I think, right? And you get a more rewarding feel out of it for the investment you put into it. This is less investment, but less reward. So it's coming in at a 6 for me.
Okay, this is coming in at a 6.5, and the reason why it is not quite a 7 is because reviewing this for what it is meant to be played in that 4-boss episode, and I feel like that is too long. So with all the other complaints that I've had about it, I do enjoy the idea of having a 20-minute boss battler, and I do enjoy the idea of having a very streamlined deck that's, meant to sit down and play and be done. And I think that this does that very well. And so it was almost a 7 for me because I feel like it really hits that mark. But because after I play 2 bosses, I'm kind of done. I don't want to play anymore. And so playing that whole episode just feels like too much for me. And especially because as you're building up and you're growing that deck, you don't really know what that final boss needs as you're crafting your deck throughout. So that combination gives me a 6.5. It's not quite there for recommendation, but I do think that it does that 20-minute boss battler. So if that is something that sounds like just right for your family and you don't necessarily want to do the whole episodes all at once, I think this could be a really good fit for a weeknight game.
I think that's a great way to put it, is that this is definitely going to fit that niche that some families are absolutely wanting. So don't let our opinion be the only thing that sways you. Look a little bit more into it if you want. That's our thoughts, though, on One Hit Heroes. Thanks for coming out to this review. My name's Chris.
I'm Wendy Yi.
And you have yourselves a great day.
And what?
Play with fruit.
Oh, okay.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Bassett.